Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in internet shitlords, and today I'm going to take you into a wild ride into a whole world that many of you maybe had no idea existed, which is the WokeSR. All right, but before I do that, I should point out that by the time this video comes on the air, it is almost certain to me that what we're going to have is issue 1 of the Pundit Files, my new bi-monthly periodical, is going to be out and available. Issue number 1 of the Pundit Files, it's called Tables to Shake Up Your Campaign. Just like RPG Pundit Presents, the Pundit Files is going to be a series of short supplements, which will be coming out every 2 weeks, and we'll cover a variety of different topics in the OSR. So issue number 1 is about a bunch of generators. It's a 13-page product, I think, and it's a bunch of random generator tables for when you want to do something that will cause a big shift in your campaign, whether it's that your campaign has gotten a little stuck or if you just want to up the action and lift the ante, right? So that's issue 1. But for example, they're all going to be different, right? Issue 2 is going to be an adventure called The Ruins of Haran. So that'll be a different thing. And then there's going to be new classes for my games, for which I can be used in all OSR games, source material, supplements, magic, all kinds of stuff, Gonzo stuff, medieval fantasy stuff, other stuff, and all of that is going to be coming along. So you can only get the Pundit Files in one place on PDF. Eventually, we might do a print compilation, but for the moment, it's on PDF from the web store of the Red Room. I have made a deal with them. It's a very good deal. They've been very good. And at first, I was trying to shop the Pundit Files to Big Geek Emporium or Giant Slayer Games, but neither of those seemed to work out. And the Red Room were tremendously friendly and professional. I have always been friends with them. There's some people that claim, "Oh no, I hate the Pundit because he betrayed the Red Room." Well, the Red Room doesn't feel that way, So like, what are you idiots doing, right? We've always had a really good relationship because game recognizes game, And I think that the Red Room and myself are two of the most prolific writers in their case. Well, in their case, a duo of writers, their writing team and me. That come out with a ton of best-selling products, and really good stuff, and so I think that's one part of why we like each other, right? So yeah, I think this is really good. My whole goal at the beginning was to find a place where I could do a series that I would sell outside of DriveThruRPG for those people that don't like DriveThruRPG, that not just don't like, but that will refuse to support anyone on DriveThruRPG. And what better place than actually in the Red Room to finally end any kind of nonsensical claims that people are making that the Red Room and I aren't friends. So that's going to be out there right now. The link will be in the description of this video, if in fact it is out there already. If not, there'll be a note explaining why the hell it's not out yet. I don't know why that would be. So I'll put the link in there and go check it out. How much does it cost? About $3.50. Okay, most of the issues will cost about $3.50, and I hope that you guys will enjoy them. If you don't like the sound of this issue, check out the next one, right? Because they're all going to be different. And while you're there, check out all the good products that are on the Red Room's web store, because they've actually got quite a lot. Well, they've got quite a lot just of their own, to say nothing of anybody else's. Incidentally, none of this obviously is a paid promotion. And the Red Room are not my publisher, right? They're just the ones that are doing the store. They're the host. They're like DriveThru in this case. It's not a collaboration that I did with them. It's not co-written with them, but it's on their store. So go check that out. Now, on to the topic of the day. I've seen that there was this talk about the Candela Obscura thing. And, people have done videos that got a lot of views, but views aren't everything. And I think that, for example, Diversity and Dragons and Black Lodge both did videos that are more than adequate to say that Candela Obscura is a shit game, right? So I'm not going to talk about that today. I was also thinking about the layoffs at Hasbro, right? But because yesterday it was announced 1,100 people got laid off from Hasbro. Hasbro is in serious problems. None of those were people from Wizards, as far as I could tell. Wizards had actually laid off about 1,000 people at the start of this year. So in January, maybe they'll do it again this January, like next month. I don't know. But these guys that got fired, I wouldn't cheer too much because none of these are the real bad guys, right? Almost everybody that got fired apparently are like factory workers that are producing toys, right? So these aren't the people that we really want to see jobless, unfortunately. But so those were interesting topics, and I was considering doing one or the other, but then I got a bit of a tip because nowadays I don't even bother looking all that often. But luckily, someone very, very friendly to me gave me this tip off that there is apparently a civil war brewing in the WokeSR. Now, you're going to say, what is the WokeSR? Well, the WokeSR is the extreme kind of Antifa far left OSR movement. They are the guys that are the inheritors of the Forge. Now, this is different than saying an OSR publisher who is kind of woke, right? Like Goodman Games is very clearly a woke OSR publisher, right? They've gone woke. That's probably going to cost them and whatever, right? But otherwise, they're still like part of the OSR, right? They're part of the OSR that are doing bad things now, right? The WokeSR would say, no, Goodman Games is problematic for 57 different reasons and needs to be burned to the ground or something like that, right? Because these guys are the absolute extremists. They're the ones that are on the very far edge and that have tried on several occasions to take over the OSR. They make these games, they have this pyramid scheme of who's allowed to make games. And then they kind of have this circle jerk going where everybody promotes the games that they say are, like this is the plan. The Revolutionary Politburo has determined that this game has to be the one that breaks in and destroys the back of the oppressive D&D system. And so then everybody is required, if they want to not get themselves canceled or have death threats or whatever, to support and promote that game. That is one of the top people that made it, of course. It's this little cabal, right? So the whole thing is a pyramid scheme. You might remember that this is something that is kind of exposed when Taylor Lane came over to the regular OSR from the WokeSR after they realized that the WokeSR is absolutely a scam, right? But the WokeSR has had a lot of success in the past, right? Like right around 2015, 2016, right? They were starting to do these avant-garde games that nobody really liked, but that a lot of people were told these are the coolest games. If you don't like them, you're not one of the cool people, right? So there were people that were promoting these games that weren't even buying them, that weren't even playing them, or that bought them without playing them, because they wanted to feel like they were the hipsters on the cutting edge. They didn't realize that's not what these people are, and that what they're doing is mostly trash. A lot of their products are really awful products besides everything else. So like there's none of them have products that are really especially good. There are some that have kind of the veneer of creativity, one or two of them, right? Like in the sense that Adventure Time is creative, right? Like, it's kind of World of the Last Sun type gonzo-ness, except that World of the Last Sun is going to be edgier and theirs is going to be more cutesy-poo or more political and ideological, and everything in there is going to be obviously highly queered, to use the term from the education system, and so these people had created this environment with this kind of centrally controlled government. It's like literally, it's like the Soviet Union versus the USA, right? The USA regular OSR, everybody makes their own games and you have to rely on your own, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, but you have, any plucky person can come out of nowhere, produce a great OSR game and become a big success, right? In their system, if you cannot produce something without getting yourself, canceled, persecuted, probably death threats again, because these are very violent people, a lot of them. And instead what you have to do is go into the system, work as part of the cheerleading squad, the support for that system, You have to follow all the rules. You have to say all the right ideology. And eventually, maybe someday, if there's an opening, when one of the inner circle get booted out, then you may be able to produce games of your own that will be well received, you know. And what's happening right now in the WokeSR is that there is one of these civil wars going on. And nobody noticed. You know, it's so funny. I mean, I didn't notice, right? My job is to kind of, to some degree, keep an eye on what's going on in the hobby. But it was just such a locked up news. And I mean, like, how long ago did it happen? Well, I'm making this video on the 12th, and all this stuff went down on like the 4th. So it took a week and a day before I even found out that this was happening. Because at this point, these guys are so isolated. They're so very, and it's incredible that that's happened, right? Because these are guys that pushed the OSR is dead campaign, the one that where they attacked the OSR for, you know, racism, sexism, homophobia, and tried to try to turn OSR into like a slur word that nobody could use it because it would be like, you know, it'd be like calling yourself alt-right or something like that. And that didn't work. And so then after they tried to come in again and take it all over and say, we're the true OSR, and the OSR doesn't want bigots. And they tried to kick everyone out. They couldn't, because obviously the OSR is decentralized. And then they were the ones that declared themselves a new design movement, old school design movement that's better than the OSR, and it's called Swordream, you know, and I did videos about Swordream. Some of my older viewers will remember that. If not, you can go look it up, Swordream. That lasted like all of like 2 days, I think. So basically they petered out over time, but they still exist. And it's really funny now because watching them fight is like watching, you know, red and black ants fighting over an anthill or something. And like, to them, it's life or death, right? But to anyone else, almost no one else is going to notice it, right? And you know, maybe once in a while, some kid will come around and look at it and think it's kind of cool, right? Watching this, it's kind of fun. Watching these ants murder each other. You don't really even care who wins, right? Because they're all just animals, right? So like, what does it matter, you know? So basically what's going on is that there are so many awful people. There are so many awful people in the WokeSR. But one of the most awful people among many of the awful people there is somebody named Nura Rose of Monkey's Paws Games. Oh, by the way, before I continue, obviously, the WokeSR is full of female-sounding names, right? But you definitely shouldn't presume that that's because it's full of biological females. That's all I'm going to say about that, right? I mean, you shouldn't be a bigot and assume that a female-sounding name means that it comes from a biological female, if you get my drift. All right. So, Nura Rose of Monkey's Paws Games has been now accused. This is one of the high-ups. Nura Rose is one of the high-up people in the WokeSR with an enormous amount of influence, and was one of the people of, like, you know, in World of the Last Sun, I have an area that's called the City of Lol, and there's they're in the middle at the time of the campaign book, they're in the middle of a civil war where there's like the Republic faction that are trying to hold things together, the Crazy Wizard faction, and then there's the Revolutionary faction, right? The Revolutionary faction itself splits into 3 parts, into the not that violent revolutionaries, the regular revolutionaries, and then the extra violent revolutionaries. And so, like, Nura Rose is part of the extra violent faction, you know, the ones that take a special joy in going after and trying to destroy the lives of people that come in their path in some way, you know. So it's very interesting that there's this blog called Traverse Fantasy. It's by someone named Marsha B, I think it is. Pretty sure it's Marsha B. I think that was the name. Thing is, this is someone who has been allowed to produce one little game, and has this blog, and apparently is like is clearly at a lower tier on the pyramid, but is now trying to take Nura Rose out, and they've done a very, very effective job of it, you know. So it's very interesting. So Nura Rose wrote such, a very famous OSR game that I'm sure all of you know about called Unconquered, right? You've all heard of Unconquered, haven't you? Well, if that if that doesn't ring a bell, maybe you could take a look at the ones that Nura Rose claimed was the influence for Unconquered, which is Into the Odd and the Vanilla Game. How many of you have heard of those? You know, I'm guessing maybe one or two people here have heard of Into the Odd, the Vanilla Game. I doubt it's very much so. And the thing that Marcia is now accusing Nura Rose of doing is plagiarism. All right. Now, plagiarism is a funny subject in the context of the OSR, right? Because with the OSR, the premise of the OSR is that you can't copyright game rules, right? And so all rules are open. You know, they're all fair game. And it's, once in a while, though, some of the people in kind of the woke end of the OSR, the WokeSR, will try to make accusations. And, you know, before the WokeSR was like Sword Dream or the WokeSR or whatever else, there were previous movements, right? There's the Forge way back, which wasn't the OSR at all. It was just the indie gamer crowd that became the major, like, you know, almost everybody in the WokeSR comes out of a Forge influence. And in between those two, there was the people at Something Awful, right, which were dedicated to basically attacking the OSR. And so, you know, I've had an accusation at one point of plagiarism. I've addressed that in the videos, in videos here. The guy who made the biggest offensive about that eventually kind of retracted his statements. Because, you know, this was like way back in my first OSR game, which was Arrows of Indra, right? It was because the magic system had elements that appeared to be similar to those of Empire of the Petal Throne, you know, and I mean, it did, but that's because Empire of the Petal Throne was influenced by the exact same things that Arrows of Indra was, right? And it had a very sensible magic system, but it wasn't that I had, you know, gone and written out the text of Empire of the Petal Throne and put it into my book, you know. So this is an example of a false accusation. So when I saw Marcia was making an accusation of plagiarism, I was assuming that that's what she was, or they were doing to. I'm gonna assume everybody there is a they, because it's very clear that we can't determine if they're a he or a she. I kind of assumed that was what they were doing. That was like a character assassination. That was probably pretty flimsy. But no, Marcia puts out very serious evidence here about Nura Rose, that what they were doing was not that, but rather that they were cutting out entire sections of text in things that were setting related or flavor related elements, right? So imagine that I've got random tables in World of the Last Sun where you can have like an encounter table and I describe it. It's a really unique, weird kind of encounter, right? So if someone were to pluck the text out of that and put it into one of their encounter tables, you could kind of tell that they literally cut and paste it, right? Maybe they change one or two words, but you could still tell, right? Because it's just such a weird kind of unique thing, right? And so this is especially easy with the WokeSR stuff because everything they do is bizarrely freakish and useless and would never appear anywhere else, you know. So like, because they like playing these games that are anti-colonial, anti-racist, you know, pro-queer and trans and whatever, and that are also basically not about anything except like kind of randomness, and that's what these games that were mentioned so far are kind of about. So apparently, excuse me, Nura Rose literally copied text from Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City. That's a famous, I mean, you guys must have heard of that one, right? And Vaults of Varn, another famous game. You know, I'm sure I heard Venger talking about how much he loves the Vaults of Varn just like yesterday or something, you know? It's incredible. So they're ripping off all of the games that they've got that nobody has ever heard of to make these new games that nobody has ever heard of, you know? It's really, really, really funny. And so basically, Marcia got her, right? Like Marcia got them, you know, they caught Nura. There's no question about it because they show the texts, and the texts show that the text is like, the similarity is way too close. And they even, so Nura Rose even did 2 different drafts, one of which was like an ashcan, like a pre-release game that they showed to everyone and probably charged for, because this is one of the things all the way back from like the Forge days. Like, imagine if I did like a 10-page ultra basic version of Baptism of Fire, and and it was like only half written and full of errors and whatever. And I said, "Oh, I'm putting it out now, and you could pay $5 for it." Like, would you pay $5 for it? I don't think so, But this is normal for these people because it's the way that you're showing that you support the movement, right? It's like you're paying the dues to the party. So Nura Rose even went so far as to have an earlier version of this game, of Unconquered, right? And then the later final version, and they're different. And you can see where the text was changed. In a few cases, the older version was a much closer cut and paste, and then they went and altered some of the language after the fact to try to hide it. So this is like quite the scandal going on, and apparently over the last week, because again I only saw this a week ago, like they show in this blog, they show literal tables where you can see that, and these aren't like tables of mechanical effects or something like that, or anything that would be like part of the system part of things, right? This is like flavor shit, right? It's like names of concoctions, right? And it's just the names, right? And the names are all fantastical, right? And there's a ton of them that are just literally taken from one to the other. And it's not names like, you're not talking about like red wine or something like that, right? You're talking about something that is going to be too weird to be anything other than a cut and paste, So pretty goddamn remarkable. And apparently, like, there was some controversy about it, but everybody turned and started to devour Nura Rose, right? Because instantly they said, this person is a piece of crap, right? Which they were, and has always been like super aggressive against everyone, which they are. But everybody there is super aggressive. I mean, they're probably right that Nura Rose was more aggressive, And then the people that like were allies of Nura Rose had to basically, first of all, denounce Nura Rose or deny Nura Rose. And secondly, demand that everybody rewrite history so that they were never associated, right? So apparently, the next post that Travis Fantasy does is points out that Jared Crater and Fiona Geist were not involved with the Unconquered game in a developmental capacity, right? And the reason they have to mention this apparently is because they obviously were involved with Nura Rose and with that sort of thing in a developmental capacity, Trying to see if I can find here. How do I do a search here? Oh, is that it? Oh no, that's just going to take me back to there. How the hell do I do them? There should be something right there, right? Is that it? Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys. 1 second here. Finding page. I just want to see. Oh, yeah. Geist was credited as an editor. Okay? As an editor. So, that's pretty clear. If you're a goddamn editor. And, Fiona Geist, by the way, is even more violent than Nura Rose. This is a person who once threatened to strangle me with piano wire, right? Because I supported the free speech rally in Berkeley. This is a person, also female sounding name, but do not assume biological femininity, right? That has been very public about saying that they want to kill every Nazi they find and stuff like that, and that everybody who doesn't agree with them is a Nazi, so therefore they can kill anyone they want, and all that sort of thing, right? They've been very expressive about their commitment to violence. Whether or not they've ever followed through with it, I have no idea, but there you go. So now this person was an editor of this product, and then Travers Fantasy, the Marcia B, was forced to do another blog entry where they say, well, Geist had nothing to do with the writing except for being an editor, right? Now, I suppose it is entirely possible, though, that let's be fair to Fiona, to old Piano Wire, that it's certainly entirely possible that only Nora Rose wrote the text, and that Fiona never noticed that it was a plagiarized work. First, because Fiona probably wouldn't have bothered to do a very good job based on their own works, right? They're almost functionally illiterate, you know? And second, because they probably never read any of those other games that Nora Rose ripped off of, right? I think that's why Nora Rose thought they would get away with it, because nobody plays these games, right? So people will buy these games in order to virtue signal to the rest of the WokeSR, but they're not going to spend a lot of time reading it, because why would they? None of them like gaming, right? This isn't about gaming. What they're doing is about, pushing this progressive, woke, social communist. I mean, in the text itself, Marcia B points out, I am a rampant and dedicated communist, and so I hate to have to betray my, have to call out a comrade, which is, say, Nora Rose, right? But this person's shit, right? All of these are horrible, horrible people, right? They're all monsters, basically, and none of them actually care about RPGs. This is all entirely a set of performative exercises in the totalitarian entryism into the regular lives of regular people. That's what they care about. They want to destroy the fun and the normality of the RPG hobby. They want to transform it into something that is revolutionary and queer, and that's their goal. They want to turn it into something that, instead of you being able to get away for a while and play some fun games, it means that when you go to use it, then you must be constantly reinforced in your revolutionary values while playing it. So it's a way to propagandize to you. That's what they want it to become. Or they want it to go away. They don't care, right? But the important thing is that they want to get points showing what excellent artists and thinkers they are for the revolution, for the Intifada revolution. This is what their real purpose is. So it does make kind of sense that Nura never expected that anyone would bother to look at any other books, because who would do that there? None of them play, right? The people that play games buy my products. The people that play games buy the Red Room. They buy Venture. They buy James Raggy's books, right? They buy Greg Gorgonmilk's books. They buy Tonisborg. They buy Kevin Crawford and Alex Macris, right? Those are the games that are bought by people who want to play, right? So my products always focus on playability first, and then none of them have a propagandistic message, right? They don't have any intentional over-the-head ideology. It's not their right-wing games. They're not. There's nothing about them that's especially right-wing. It's just their games that are meant to be for gaming and have none of the woke left-wing agenda of 2023 in them. That's it. So, this is the basic story. It looks like Marcia B won, and except that now they've probably made an enemy of of Fiona Geist. But in general, this is how the mighty have fallen back there. But not just Nura Rose, the whole thing. The fact that 8 days went by and nobody had even heard of this. Did any of you hear of this? And to them, it's like the meta crisis, right? It's like this thing that has happened that has shaken the world. But to all the rest of us, nobody gives a damn anymore because of how irrelevant they've become, right? The actual wokeism that's dangerous is the wokeism that is a much more sophisticated, the managerial wokeism, right? Like these are the crazy Antifa people. And the managerial wokeism are the ones that have taken over Wizards of the Coast. Now, sometimes they use the crazy Antifa people for their purposes, but mainly their interest is to be able to have a much more intelligent path to totalitarian control than than the people that are in the WokeSR who would never actually be able to get anywhere. So I guess that's everything to tell you. I just thought it was hilariously funny. I doubt it's going to get as much views as if I'd done something about Candela Obscura, but it's a much funnier story to me. And I think it's hilarious to see that these people are still there and they're still doing their little Ponzi scheme, you know. I just don't know. I don't know how that's going to end for them, you know, like where is that even going? What are they accomplishing there? It's a funny story. All right, that's everything for today. Please share this video anywhere you think people find it interesting and amusing, or anywhere that you think people hate it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the like button, and check out all my other videos. And check out my products, starting with the Pundit Files #1 on the Red Room, in the Red Room shop, right? Check it out. And check out all the rest of my products, like Lion and Dragon, Medieval Authentic Roleplaying, World of Last Sun. If you like stuff that is gonzo and kind of weird and different, but is not woke crap, right? Like if you like the games that are filled with kind of unusual, strange events and a setting that is a big mix of fantasy and sci-fi and some weird references and things like that, but that is not like what was his name? Like the you know, what these new woke TV shows, instead of say something like you know, Rick and Morty or something. Well, I guess the new Rick and Morty might be like that. But yeah, check out the World of the Last Sun if you want good gonzo gaming, right? And check out the World of the Last Sun. The Invisible College if you want a sophisticated game where you're playing occult magicians in the modern setting, fighting against sinister dark orders that want to control the future of humanity, and all my other games. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Currently smoking. This is Neerup Cuddy plus Argento Roots.